Hi, welcome to another episode of Just Saying with. Today, we are with Roy Kek from Emerge Esports.
Hi everyone, I'm Roy. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Roy. How are you doing?
Doing great so far. Hope you're doing good as well.
I am. So, Roy, Emerge Esports. It's correct me if I'm wrong. It's a talent management agency for esports, right? Dedicate. I mean, it's in the name.
Yeah, I think for us right now, that's one of our main focus. But as we are growing, there are quite a different stuff that we are venturing into as well. We're focusing on some tech element aspect as well. So it's more going to be growing into like a group entity. But however, we'll still definitely retain the talent management or team management area as well.
Right. And what does I mean, I can't say that I understand esports. I mean, I love gaming. Many years ago, I would be considered a gamer. The fact that I played games, right? I'm on my consoles, I'm on my PC, and things like that. But today, it's a situation where I'm not going to say afraid, but I think, is it even wrong for me to call myself a gamer now just because of how esports has grown? And typically, when someone says, "Oh, I'm a gamer," it sounds more like saying it's a profession. Like, hey, it's rather like, you know, I play football, but I'm not a footballer. You know,
Understand?
yeah, I don't play for a club. So it's become something like that where I can't call myself a gamer anymore. I'm a person who plays games. So is that how the industry has changed? The fact that I'm even having trouble calling myself a gamer today.
No, I don't think the industry has changed that, per se. I think gamers is still really representing of, those who are really enthusiastic about the games they play or playing games on a casual basis. They really don't have to define that, if you are a professional player. However, for professional players, normally how do they define themselves is they will define themselves as a professional esports athletes as well. So I think there's some form of clear distinction. And even right now, in the esports industry, there are also different type of distinctions for different part of the employment, or I would say stakeholders in the esports industry. There's your shoutcasters, there's your streamers themselves, there's the esports athletes themselves, there are the esports manager themselves. So, but I think what is really linking everyone together is everyone's are big gamers, right? So I think you can still definitely call yourself a gamer. It doesn't you have to be professional or something.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so professional esports athlete, right? And I think you touched on something really good there, where it's not just about the esports athletes, but it's becoming an industry. It's huge. You have your shoutcasters, you have your streamers, you have the talent management agencies, and it's become just a huge industry of a juggernaut of an industry with so much of money flying around. And I think when we first saw many years back, we thought it was a typo. That when you look at it, hey, is that really the prize money that these people like that? That's that you don't even get that in professional sports sometimes, right? What do you think has attributed to that rise? And so we've been having this conversation for about, I would say, probably in this region, I would say probably in Singapore for the last 5, 6 years, where the first notion of the idea of esports or the industry as a career choice first emerged. And how do you see that? I mean, how has that grown today? Is it still, are we still taking the baby steps? Have we gone much further into it? Is it, I don't want to use the word accepted, but maybe that's it. Is there a greater acceptance, especially when you come from, I don't know, a Southeast Asian culture where people are thought to be engineers, doctors, lawyers, and well, today banking and finance uh, people rather than a gamer or a professional esports athlete or someone in the industry.
Yeah, I think with that being said, compared to 5 6 years ago, generally in Singapore, even Southeast Asia, there has been big steps, not really baby steps, right? As to achieving or recognizing esports, and we can definitely take into consideration to support this matter of fact, right? Is that Singapore governments or even government in the Southeast Asia industry or even regulating bodies such as like recently the Southeast Asian Games, or even we have your Asian Games that have been coming to esports. They're recognizing esports. There's a big move right here, and this clearly showcased that it's no longer your Southeast Asian culture, right? Where saying esports is no longer recognized. And for Singapore government, they have been really supportive of esports, especially during this COVID situation. They have been holding most of the world tournaments in Singapore. So Free Fire, is held in Singapore. Your Mobile Legends World Championship is held in Singapore. I think this clearly also, showcase and prove that Singapore is growing to be one of the landmarks in Southeast Asia that is supporting for esports. Previously, of course, Western Hemisphere for sure they are definitely much more mature in the area of esports, because if you compare the developers, right, the early games, your Valve, right, they are more in the Western Hemisphere, right? The early games are your CS:GO, your Dota 2, your StarCraft, right? So mainly is in the Western Hemisphere. But however, if you take a recent look, most of the gaming developers right now, or game publishers, I would say, there is, with the more popular games, mobile games, I would say, like Mobile Legends. You have your Free Fire. Most of them are, Asia, right? Your PUBG Mobile with Tencent supporting it. So they are growing the Asia market for sure. And we can see that there are a huge influx of jobs as well that is coming to Asia, with One Esports also being based in Singapore, and many other tournament organizers that's also in Southeast Asia. And we also have seen that Riot has been pumping a lot of money into Southeast Asia with their Valorant, with their Wild Rift, and you don't really see that 5 to 6 years ago, right? So this is definitely something that's growing, and we can see that how is it being grown is, of course, there's different stakeholders involved supporting it, right? We have your government bodies, we have your developers that's pushing it as well. And of course, there's a growth of esports team. There are much more esports team coming into the picture. However, just to play a little bit of devil's advocate here, right? I mean, with more and more teams coming on board, there has to be a sustainable ecosystem where sponsors, advertisers have to come in. Because if they do not come in and accept that esports is something that it's like the new advertising format as well, right? Like part of a new advertising format, then it's hard, right, to sustain this entire ecosystem, because without the sponsorship money or advertising money, it's hard to sustain the teams or even the tournaments and leagues. So I feel, considering the growth as compared to 5 to 6 years, there's tremendous growth in this area, and I think it will just moving forward is just going to grow more as well.
Right. Excuse me. Excuse me. You brought up some really interesting points there, and I definitely want to touch on a couple of them. Now, first, I would say, so you mentioned all these games, right? And typically, you would say a traditional athlete, again, you see, I keep stopping myself when I want to say mainstream sports and all that, because it's all mainstream now. Everything is mainstream now. But let's say football or tennis, or even the greatest players pick a sport, right? So, Michael Jordan, a long time ago, one of the greatest basketball players ever, tried to play baseball, didn't work out, right? So you've got people that stick to one sport. Now, what advice, or basically, how is that like when you translate it to esports? Just as you mentioned, there's so many publishers, there's so many games, so many type of games. Do people just stick to one and become the best they are at that one game, or do they commonly like jump and I'm an esports professional athlete and I'm good at 3 or 4 games?
Which, I think that's that's a very interesting question. Definitely for some of them, they definitely zoom into a certain game to be the best at what they do, because there's a lot of training hours. And I think I really want to highlight something there that I don't think most of the viewers or gamers or external parties who are not in the esports industry or in the teams themselves really know how much effort the professional players are putting in, right? And we're talking about professional players that are in the professional organization themselves, right? They are really putting in a lot of efforts, right? They are training like maybe sometimes 8 hours to even 12 hours a day sometimes. And there's a key differentiation between playing your games, like having fun with your friends, sometimes just toying around, and being good at a craft. So because sometimes they have to be training a certain hero, there's a certain format, a certain map, or whichever, depending on the game, like about 6 hours, 8 hours, or even days to end. Right? So it's crazy the amount of dedication they put in. So really, it's hard for them to jumping around, training different games. However, I feel to answer your question on that, they have to choose. I think first is what kind of genre of games you are good at or interested at, right? Like there's your FPS games, there's your MOBAs, there's different type of games. So I think some of them the skill sets are quite transferable, right? What I mean by that is previously we see there's a lot of professional Counter-Strike player, CS:GO player that has been jumping over to Valorant. And why would you say so is because I think although the skills are quite different in terms of the the items and etc., but the skill set is relatively similar. I think it's easier for them to pick up for professional at the highest level. Yeah. And similar to mobile games such as we have your Mobile Legends and Wild Rift. Recently there are some crossover as well. And also Dota 2 players in the past, like HYHY, he have been jumping over to LL for a moment as well. So I think some skill sets are definitely transferable. However, if you want to attain the highest level, right, the highest pinnacles of that esports in particular, I would definitely recommend. I think they have to be definitely looking into just one game and perfecting it as well.
And then how do you choose that one game? Okay, so first you look at the genre that you want, right? Okay, I like MOBAs, or are you a PC gamer? Are you a console gamer? It all makes a difference. But how do you choose that one game? Also because you've got so many new games that come up. So just like Valorant came out, and then now you got Mobile Legends, you have so many different ones out there. You have LoL, Dota for the longest time now. When a new game comes out, do you want to be the first one in there, or do you stick through? How do you choose which game? If I want to be a professional, which game should I concentrate on? Is there a thought process around it?
Yes, definitely, for sure. I think the underlying factor is really passion. The passion and your interest in the game. It's very similar. If you're looking at esports as a profession, I think we have to take into consideration of other profession. How do you choose a career, right? Sometimes it's whether do you have the passion, do you have the interest for it? That's something that is very important. Yes, you may be interested in gaming, but you may have something that may have a certain passion for a certain type of games, there are certain mechanics of the games that is very different. And of course, to choose a profession or which game to really focus on is really the development of the market. Do the developers really, the publishers, do they really support the ecosystem and the development of it, right? Is they have is the ecosystem large enough for you to really stake your career in it? If it's a publisher that is really pumping loads of money into the development of the game, into the ecosystem, such as the leagues, such as the teams, such as the franchises, then yeah, I think you can really put in 101%. However, it's a new game. Sometimes, definitely some players do face some choices, right? Should I change a new game? This game looks pretty promising. But at the end of the day, what boils down is, are you able to have a long-term career in it? Because as we all know, esports or sports is quite similar in terms of the peak performance, right? Certain athletes, there's the age limit for sure, where their reaction will slow down. Not everyone is like ice, right? They can perform like a lengthy amount of years at their top. But some of them is really tough, right? And not everyone is like LeBron James in basketball. Some of them only have 3 to 5 years in terms of the peak performance. And not everyone is like Tom Brady, right? So this is something that really sometimes a risk for them to really change. So we do see that most of the players or esports, I would say athletes, really focusing on just their craft and their game.
And what age group do you say? I mean, just as you spoke about peak performance, typically a professional athlete, I would say in your physical sports would be around your 27 to 29, just hit 30 is where they kind of like in their peak performance range. They've got enough experience versus the body's capability. What about esports? What's that age group, that sweet spot?
I think esports right now, the range definitely is bigger, but I don't think anyone have a large enough of sample size to really get a subset to really determine that. But I think roughly we definitely see people who are on the older end of the spectrum, right, of the age group that is still playing at their peak, right? Of course, as I said, is one very classic example. We have Mushi previously as well in the Dota scene. We also have some of the big players that are really hitting their peak, even in the CS:GO and Valorant scene as well. Even though as they age, they still provide a lot of peak performances for their viewers and stuff like this. So I really can't determine a fixed age group or range of age group right now, because I think it's still growing. Most of them are still in the younger end of the spectrum, right, as compared to sports that's been hundreds of years. So really can't determine that yet.
And you just blew away all my excuses about being too old to play. So I guess it's not that I'm too old. I just am really bad at the games. That's it. So,
I'm not that.
but okay, commercialization, right? So you mentioned basically about how the developers themselves pump in and invest time, effort, and of course money to grow a market. What's it like finding that commercial partners as well, and how receptive are companies to backing esports teams? Because I see so many partnerships out today. I mean, I receive press releases about esports partnerships on a daily basis, and how's that been? I mean, how's that grown or evolved over the years? When you go in for a pitch, is it much easier? Is it like, all right, yeah, we know exactly what this is. You don't need to pitch to us the industry. We know what it is and we know what we want. Is that become the case now?
I think it's easier as compared to the past, for sure. But the barrier of entry is still high, right? The cost of education is also high, right? In terms of educating them about esports, because first thing first, it really depends on the target group that the particular brand is targeting, right? So if the target group is definitely on the targeting on the older end of the consumer base, then they may not be as in touch or related to esports. But also at the end of the day, I feel definitely they are getting much more aware of esports in terms of the area. But not many of them are aware that it can be a very good advertising model, right? But like the saying goes, advertising really transition in terms and revolutionize phase by phase, right? As we've seen from the past till now. And from the past, we started off with like your standard, our homes. Then we have your broadcasts, right? We have your papers, we have your prints. We have even, interactive our homes right now. And then as we transition into influencers, some of them do face that difficulties transitioning in the past, right? But right now, as we move on into esports, I think most of them really wanted to know, okay, why is this an effective mode of advertising? And I think COVID-19 definitely accelerate the progress because most of them can't do out of home ads, right? Not much of them doing out of home ads at the start, and events is gone, MICE is gone, convention is gone. So what are they supposed to do, right, with their budget? So how are they able to target and engage the users? So normally when we go in for our pitch, we normally share with them that, hey, you know what? Even if you use influencer, it's great, right? But your Instagram post, your Facebook post, what's your attention span? 10 seconds, 15 seconds per post max. But for streams, the average is 10 to 15 minutes, right? And it's a two-way engagement between the streamers and your viewers. So it's really something that you can express more about your brand there. And instead of just logo placement, we need to let them know there are actually way more advertising format that they can do, right? It can be different type of content model. It can be different type of maybe community tournament, so that they can try out a brand. So for example, let's say we have a new drink that's launching out. They can be supporting esports tournament where they can send the drinks to the athletes or to the gamers or the participants to try it out. So there are different ways that they can tap into esports. So we do not want them to limit the space that esports is just about logo placement, which is similar to sports. There's so much more that you can engage with the audience as well.
Yeah. And what do these or basically, right, so you've got the commercial side of it, getting these deals, but what do you then look at as probably a esports professional that you want to take on board from the talent agency perspective?
I think for us at Emerge, I do not say about other teams or
at Emerge, yeah.
For Emerge, it's not just about the following. Right? It's not about just how good they are. And we don't just have professional esports players. We do have a lot of up and rising talents or interesting personalities. Right? What we look at is really the commitment that they have. Because for us at Emerge, we really provide a lot of support, not just monetary support for sponsorship. Right? We provide equipment support. We provide partnership with social media outlets like our recent partnership with TikTok, partnership with advertisers or even media outlets like Mediacorp. So there's so many other things that we have partnered up with to provide the support for them to groom. So with all this support is cost involved as well. So we want to invest in a player or a talent that is really in it for the long term. So when we interview with talents, is really we want to see their track record. How long has they been streaming? Growth of the followers definitely yes, it's important, but it's not the main factor. It's about how consistent are they, right? Are they in it for the long run? Do they really have that passion? Or are they just coming in for, oh, my friend is streaming. Yeah, sure, I will stream. I'm bored, right? But do they really have the passion? Or is it because they are just bored and trying to stream right now? So this is one of the most important key factors that we look for in the talents. And secondly, are they mature enough to understand that, esports is not just about streaming and having fun with your, or even gaming or as a career. It's not just streaming, having fun with your friends, right? It's really about, there's a lot of things involved. There's some campaigns that you have to do. There's some strict timeline that you are adhering to. So it's about professionalism as well, because we do not want to be securing some, deals for them, and at the end of the day, they just went MIA, right? So this is something that's very important for us to uphold at Emerge as well.
Yeah. And speaking of partnerships and training, providing that support, Emerge has signed up with Mediacorp in Singapore for their Bloomr.SG network. Can you tell us a little bit more about this collaboration and partnership?
Yeah, I think this collaboration partnership we have been discussing for like close to almost a year. Behind the scene, of course, there's a lot of things involved for them, and why we wanted to go with Mediacorp. There are different things that involve as well. One of the main reasons we initiated this partnership is because we wanted to highlight to the general public that esports and gaming is so much more now, right? It's no longer just a passion, just a game. It's really commercializing now, right now. It can be a profession, it can be a career. So with Mediacorp coming in, really send out a big message to all the advertisers, to all the even parents at home that have aspiring kids that wanted to go into esports. That hey, you know what, this is a career right now. This is a legitimate profession. So this is something that's very important. But with the partnership with them, is nothing that we feel that it's very important to our talents for this partnership is most of the talents are aspiring content creators when they want to come up with high level content, right? Filming and everything, cinematography, they wanted to up their levels, right? They face difficulties in terms of equipment, and equipment's cost can be really, really high, really, really costly.
I would know, definitely, yeah.
Production is insane, right? And manpower as well. So how do they go about that? With our partnership with Mediacorp, we are able to use their state-of-the-art facility, their studios, their production rooms, at no cost to support the talents. So the talents can definitely, put down all their worries and I'll just pursue my content creation. That's what we want to do for them. Right? Take out all the, problems out of the equations and for them to really push forward in terms of developing their career and content and etc. Second thing is also with Mediacorp wide array and wide pool of advertisers, this is something that really can bring about more, sponsorship opportunity, advertising opportunities for our talents. That's one. Second is also educating the advertisers themselves, because Mediacorp being a giant themselves, it has been long-standing relationship with a lot of big advertising firms or even companies themselves. Having a leader like Mediacorp sharing, with them about esports will, definitely lower the barrier of entry and lower the education barrier of esports for such brands. So I think this partnership really is very significant for us and also for the industry as well, to basically move forward with pushing esports to the mass and pushing esports to more advertisers as well.
Right. That sounds very interesting. And you're right, the cost of just purchasing equipment. I mean, there are a lot of tips and hacks, but then again, you need to have the training and the understanding to make use of tips and hacks. So I think this is a great initiative. Very interesting. I wish I had something like that when we first started many years back, but unfortunately, well, times moved on, and it's great that you are able to do this for. Well, I wouldn't say just for esports, because I think this is a skill that is transferable in many different industries and aspects as well. Yeah. So Roy, thank you very much for joining us this week, and hope you stay safe, stay well, and cheers. Take care.
Yes, take care, Zed. Thank you.
Thank you for watching another video from Just Saying Asia. Please, if you like our content, like the page, like us, subscribe, and leave a comment. We really want to hear what you have to say, and we'll be happy to answer your comments and your questions as well. So stay tuned and see you in the next video.